Alina Ward was 41 when the truth finally broke her. She had always believed that silence was strength, that a composed smile could protect her from the chaos of the world. For years, it did. Her husband, Richard Ward, a charismatic real estate magnate and soon-to-be mayoral candidate, was the kind of man who could make cameras love him even when his heart had long gone cold. Together, they were the golden couple of Manhattan's elite, two faces that graced magazines, charity galas, and newspaper covers. But every photo hid a secret. Alina was vanishing, piece by piece, under the weight of perfection. She had grown up in a quiet coastal town in Maine, daughter of a librarian and a fisherman. Her world had smelled of salt and ink, of old paper and the sea. Richard had entered that world like a lightning bolt, all ambition and expensive charm. He had promised her the moon, and for a while, she believed him. That morning, their penthouse shimmered with early sunlight. It was Richard's birthday. The staff moved quietly around the marble kitchen. Alina had arranged everything, the gourmet brunch, the imported wine, the watch he had wanted from Geneva. She stood by the window, in a silk dress the color of champagne, watching the city stretch awake below. When she heard his laughter, low, intimate, coming from the adjoining study, she smiled instinctively and turned to join him. But the words that followed froze her mid-step. "Alina? Please." The only thing she manages well is spending money and pretending to be relevant. A woman laughed softly. Alina recognized the voice, Clara Hunt, Richard's campaign strategist. "You'll drop her once you win, won't you?" Clara teased. "Of course," Richard replied smoothly. "The donors love her charitable heart, but when I'm in office, I need a first lady, not a liability." The air went out of Alina's lungs. Her hands shook, but she didn't move. Every word pierced through her composure like glass. "She thinks I love her," he added with a cruel laugh. "I can't wait to see her face when she realizes she was just good PR." Alina didn't remember walking away. She only remembered the taste of metal in her mouth and the sound of her pulse roaring in her ears. She made it to the bedroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor in her gown, a queen dethroned in silence. She didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, she stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her own eyes frightened her, calm, steady, too quiet. She reached for the jewelry box, took out her wedding ring, and set it on the dresser. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "Let's see how well you survive without your favorite accessory." That night, Richard came home to find dinner ready, candles lit, and Alina smiling as if nothing had happened. She toasted to his bright future, kissed his cheek, and listened to him talk about power and destiny. He didn't notice the new emptiness in her eyes. At 3 a.m., while he slept beside her, Alina was at her desk. Years of managing their foundation had taught her more about finance than Richard ever realized. Within 2 hours, she had transferred nearly every liquid asset into a quiet trust in her maiden name, the one she had almost forgotten, Alina Marin. By dawn, she had left the penthouse. No servants saw her. No note, no explanation, just silence, the kind that speaks louder than any goodbye. Her driver thought she was heading to the airport. But halfway through, she asked him to stop at a subway station. One train later, she was gone, swallowed by the underground veins of the city. 3 days later, Richard's empire began to crumble. The trust funds froze. The press discovered that his beloved wife had withdrawn millions before disappearing. A rumor spread, she'd fled abroad, possibly taking evidence of his campaign's illegal donations. But Alina wasn't in Europe. She was in Brooklyn, in a rundown neighborhood where no one cared about designer labels or luxury cars. She had rented a small room under a false name, living on cash, wearing thrift store clothes, her hair tied in a messy bun. For the first time in 20 years, she walked the streets without being recognized. She found a small community kitchen that served homeless families. At first, she came just to help, slicing vegetables, sweeping floors, doing anything that kept her mind busy. The place was run by Sophia, a woman in her 60s with fierce eyes and a soft heart. "You look like someone who's lost something," Sophia said one day. Maybe I finally found it, Alina answered softly. Sophia smiled. Then help me keep the soup from burning, Miss Mystery. That was how Alina began again, nameless, grounded, useful. One evening, a young girl named Mira, no older than 10, came to the kitchen with her little brother. They were thin, trembling, and silent. Alina found herself kneeling, helping them eat, her hands shaking slightly as she tied the boy's shoe. "Where's your mom?" she asked gently. "She got sick," Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They said the hospital needs money first." Something inside Alina cracked. She spent that night awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, feeling a weight heavier than grief, the weight of meaning. The next morning, she went to Sophia and said, "We could do more. We could organize donations, medical drives. I used to run logistics. I can help." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "You talk like someone who used to manage empires." Alina smiled faintly. "I did. Now I'd rather build something that saves them." Weeks turned into months. She became the invisible heart of the neighborhood, coordinating supplies, arranging food deliveries, helping single mothers find housing. No one knew she once hosted charity galas and diamond necklaces. To them, she was just Alina, the quiet woman with tired eyes and hands that never stopped working. Then one afternoon, the past found her. A news segment played on an old TV near the kitchen. Breaking news: Mayor candidate Richard Ward under investigation for fraud and misuse of charitable funds. His wife, missing for months, is believed to have transferred evidence to authorities. The room buzzed with whispers. Alina stood frozen, her spoon trembling in her hand. Sophia turned to her slowly. "That man, he was your husband, wasn't he?" Alina exhaled. The truth, when spoken, felt like release. "Yes. Once." Sophia didn't ask more. She just said quietly, "Well, then you've done what few women dare, you freed yourself before the world did it for you." The scandal destroyed Richard. His campaign collapsed. His accounts were seized. The media tore him apart. But Alina didn't celebrate. She simply continued her work, serving soup, cleaning, helping strangers, not out of guilt, but out of peace. Months later, Myra's mother recovered after receiving free treatment arranged through one of Alina's anonymous donors, money that once belonged to Richard's luxury campaign fund. And one chilly evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Sophia handed Alina a small newspaper clipping. It read, "Alina Marin, anonymous whistleblower who exposed corruption, remains missing." Sophia smiled. "Seems like you made the news again." Alina laughed softly. "Then it's time to disappear again." That night, she walked to the pier. The city lights shimmered on the water. She took out a photo from her pocket, herself at 20, smiling on a beach, wind in her hair. She let it fall into the sea. "Goodbye, Mrs. Ward," she whispered. "Welcome home, Alina." The tide carried the photograph away. And somewhere behind her, the sirens of the city wailed, not in mourning, but in rebirth. For the first time in decades, Alina didn't belong to anyone, didn't need to smile for cameras, didn't have to pretend. She was just a woman, flawed, free, and alive.